Léon, the professional, left an unforgettable mark with its dark atmosphere, explosive action, and unlikely bond at the heart of the story. More than 3 decades later, the lives behind those iconic faces have taken very different turns. Some became major stars, others followed quieter paths, and time changed them all. Today, we look back at the cast then and now, and discover what happened after the film. Malky was one of Stansfield's corrupt DA men, and Peter Appel helped make the character feel right at home in the dark, dangerous world of Léon, the professional. Born on October 19, 1959, Appel was 35 years old when the film arrived in 1994. As Malky, he witnesses Stansfield's terrifying mood swings up close, including the unforgettable Beethoven exchange that perfectly captures just how unpredictable his boss can be. Before Léon, Appel had already appeared in films such as Days of Thunder, Presumed Innocent, and Basic Instinct. He went on to build a remarkably steady career as a character actor, appearing in Sleepers, The Happening, Bad Education, and numerous television productions, including multiple roles across the Law and Order franchise. He also lent his voice to major video games. Now 66, Appel remains a veteran performer whose career proves that even without top billing, a distinctive supporting actor can quietly become part of some unforgettable Hollywood moments. Tony seemed like Léon's trusted friend and father figure, but behind the warmth was a man who understood exactly how the assassin's deadly business worked. Born on June 20, 1933, Danny Aiello was 61 years old when Léon, the professional, was released in 1994. By then, his unmistakable New York presence had already made him one of Hollywood's great character actors, with memorable performances in The Godfather Part 2, Moonstruck, and Once Upon a Time in America. Most importantly, his powerful turn as Sal in Spike Lee's Do the Right Thing earned him an Academy Award nomination for Best Supporting Actor. As Tony, Aiello brought humor, affection, and just enough ambiguity to make audiences wonder how much Léon could truly trust him. He continued acting for another quarter century, later expanding into music and releasing albums of traditional standards. Aiello died on December 12, 2019, at the age of 86. His Tony remains memorable because beneath that friendly smile, you could always sense the hard streets of New York. Stansfield didn't simply enter a room, he made everyone in it afraid of what might happen next. Born on March 21, 1958, Gary Oldman was 36 years old when Léon, the professional, arrived in 1994, unleashing one of the most unhinged villains of his career. As corrupt DA agent Norman Stansfield, Oldman turned sudden whispers, explosive rage, and chilling unpredictability into a performance audiences still quote decades later. He was already acclaimed for transformative roles in Sid and Nancy, JFK, and Bram Stoker's Dracula, but his career would climb even higher. Oldman later became Commissioner Gordon in the Dark Knight trilogy, Sirius Black in the Harry Potter films, and Winston Churchill in Darkest Hour, the performance that finally earned him the Academy Award for Best Actor. Today, 68, he continues earning acclaim as Jackson Lamb in Slow Horses. More than 30 years later, Stansfield remains terrifying because Oldman never played him like an ordinary villain. He played him like a man capable of exploding at any second. Léon was deadly with a weapon, painfully awkward with people, and somehow one of the most vulnerable assassins ever put on screen. Born on July 30, 1948, Jean Reno was 46 years old when Léon, the professional, was released in 1994. His quiet, restrained performance gave the hitman an unforgettable contradiction. A man capable of extraordinary violence who lived alone, cared for his houseplant, drank milk, and struggled with ordinary human connection. Reno had already built a powerful creative partnership with director Luc Besson through films such as The Big Blue and La Femme Nikita, but Léon pushed him toward international stardom and earned him a César Award nomination for Best Actor. Hollywood soon followed with major roles in Mission Impossible, Godzilla, Ronin, and The Da Vinci Code. Now 78, Reno remains active after nearly 5 decades on screen. Yet for millions of fans, no role has eclipsed the lonely man in the round sunglasses, a professional killer whose greatest transformation began when he opened his door. The first Stansfield man was part of the corrupt DA crew that brought terrifying chaos into Matilda's home and changed her life forever. Born on September 20th, 1956, Willie Oneblood was 38 years old when Léon, the professional, was released in 1994. Working alongside Gary Oldman's wildly unpredictable Stansfield, his character helped make the apartment massacre one of the film's darkest and most disturbing turning points. But Willie's story extends well beyond this supporting role. A reggae and dancehall artist as well as an actor, he became especially recognizable through Whiny Whiny, What Really Drives Me Crazy, featured on the hugely successful Dumb and Dumber soundtrack. His acting career never reached the Hollywood prominence of Jean Reno or Gary Oldman, yet his appearance in Léon permanently connected him to a cult classic that continues finding new audiences decades later. Currently 69, Willie Oneblood remains a fascinating member of the cast, a performer whose journey crossed music, movies, and one unforgettable chapter of 1990s cinema. The second Stansfield man may not have had the name recognition of Stansfield, but Don Creech helped make his corrupt D-Unit feel disturbingly believable. Born on October 30th, 1948, Creech was 45 years old when Léon, the professional, reached audiences in 1994. His character is part of the heavily armed group surrounding Stansfield, contributing to the menace that drives Matilda toward Léon and sets the film's central relationship in motion. Creech later became a familiar face to younger audiences through a completely different kind of role, the strict but memorable science teacher Mr. Sweeney on Nickelodeon's Ned's Declassified School Survival Guide. His credits also stretched across television and film, including appearances in Law and Order, The Island, and other productions. Creech died on October 26, 2018, just 4 days before his 70th birthday. From the darkness of Stansfield's crew to children's television, his remarkably varied career showed just how far a gifted character actor could travel. The third Stansfield man was another armed member of the corrupt DA crew that brought terror to Matilda's doorstep, but Keith E. Glasgow's real-life story would ultimately become far more powerful than his brief Hollywood career. Born on December 9, 1962, Glasgow was 31 years old when Léon, the professional, was released in 1994. His imposing presence fit naturally among Stansfield's ruthless men, helping make the apartment massacre one of the film's most disturbing turning points. Yet acting was only one chapter of his life. Glasgow was also a New York City firefighter, serving with FDNY Ladder Company 21 in Manhattan. On September 11, 2001, he responded to the terrorist attacks on the World Trade Center and was killed in the line of duty at just 38 years old. Today, his legacy reaches far beyond the screen. For fans revisiting Léon decades later, seeing Glasgow carries an entirely different emotional weight. The supporting actor playing one of Stansfield's men was, in real life, a firefighter who gave his life trying to save others. Manolo was one of Tony's young associates, appearing inside the Little Italy restaurant that served as the unlikely business headquarters for Léon's deadly profession. Born on July 6, 1978, Adam Bush was only 16 years old when Léon, the professional, arrived in 1994, making him one of the youngest performers in the film's supporting cast. His role was small, but it came at the beginning of a career that would eventually make him far more recognizable to television audiences. Bush later became best known as Warren Mears on Buffy the Vampire Slayer, a character who evolved into one of the series' most notorious human antagonists. He continued working across television and film, with appearances in projects including Men at Work, Colony, and The Rookie, while also pursuing music as a member of the band Common Rotation. Now 48, Bush has traveled a long way from Manolo, the teenage supporting player who briefly shared the world of Léon and Tony before building an identity of his own on television. Matilda's mother had little time to reveal who she really was before Stansfield's men shattered the family forever, yet Ellen Green brought an instantly recognizable presence to the doomed household. Born on February 22, 1951, Green was 43 years old when Léon, the professional, arrived in 1994. Her character's troubled home life helps establish the harsh environment surrounding young Matilda before the apartment massacre suddenly leaves her with nowhere to turn. But audiences familiar with Green knew her best from a dramatically different role. She became legendary as the sweet, vulnerable Audrey in Little Shop of Horrors, originating the part off-Broadway before recreating it in the beloved 1986 film. After Léon, Green continued working across stage and screen, with appearances in Pushing Daisies, Heroes, and numerous theater productions. Now 75, she remains deeply associated with Audrey, yet her brief appearance in Léon demonstrates another side of her range, a small performance positioned at the edge of the tragedy that changes Matilda's life forever. Matilda's sister appears only briefly, but her fate becomes part of the devastating event that forces Matilda to leave her old life behind. Born on March 12, 1975, Elizabeth Regan was just 19 years old when Léon, the professional, was released in 1994. As the older daughter in Matilda's deeply dysfunctional family, she occupies a small but important place in the film's opening act, making the sudden destruction of the household feel even more complete. Regan went on to build a career far beyond this early supporting role, becoming a familiar character actress across American film and television. Her later credits included appearances in Sex and the City, The Black Donnellys, Law and Order, and the Comedy Beer League, among other projects. Rather than becoming defined by a single blockbuster, she steadily accumulated roles across different genres and formats. Now 51, Regan remains one of those performers viewers may recognize without immediately remembering where they first saw her. And for Léon fans, that trail leads all the way back to Matilda's doomed apartment. Matilda's father set the tragedy of Léon, the professional, in motion long before the first gunshot tore through the family apartment. Born on December 20, 1954, Michael Badalucco was 39 years old when the film arrived in 1994. His character makes the fatal mistake of stealing drugs entrusted to him by Stansfield, putting his entire family in the path of a corrupt DA agent with no mercy. Badalucco made the father sleazy, nervous, and deeply flawed, a man whose criminal choices ultimately cost far more than he ever imagined. But his biggest breakthrough was still ahead. In 1997, he joined the acclaimed legal drama The Practice as attorney Jimmy Berluti, a performance that earned him the Primetime Emmy Award for Outstanding Supporting Actor in a Drama Series in 1999. He later appeared in films and series including Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?, The Man Who Wasn't There, and Never Have I Ever. Now 71, Badalucco remains a veteran character actor whose brief role in Léon triggered the catastrophe that changed Matilda forever. Fatman barely had time to understand what was happening before Léon demonstrated exactly why people paid him to make problems disappear. Born on December 10, 1954, Frank Sanger was 39 years old when Léon, the professional, was released in 1994. As the heavily guarded mobster targeted in the opening sequence, Fatman helps introduce Jean Reno's assassin without the film needing a lengthy explanation. Léon silently eliminates his protection, appears seemingly out of nowhere, and leaves Fatman completely helpless, a sequence that instantly establishes the professional's almost mythic reputation. Sanger was a New York actor whose rugged appearance made him a natural fit for tough guy and working-class characters. Beyond Léon, his screen credits included the professional era's many New York-based film and television productions, while he also worked extensively as a stage performer. Sanger died on April 15, 2016, at the age of 61. His role was brief, but Fatman served an essential purpose. He was the terrified man who showed audiences just how dangerous Léon could be before they discovered the human being behind the killer. Blonde Babe appears for only a fleeting moment in Léon, the professional, but the woman playing her would eventually build a remarkable career far beyond that tiny role. Born on April 17, 1976, Maywin was just 18 years old when the film reached audiences in 1994. Credited as Ingen, she appears as the blonde woman in the hotel sequence, a small cameo that carried an unusual behind-the-scenes connection. Maywin was married to the film's writer-director, Luc Besson, at the time. Rather than remaining known for supporting appearances, she later emerged as a major French filmmaker in her own right. Her 2011 police drama Police competed for the Palme d'Or and won the jury prize at the Cannes Film Festival, while later projects including Mon Roy, DNA, and Jean du Barry strengthened her reputation as both an actress and director. Now 50, Maywin's journey is one of the cast's most dramatic transformations. From a blink-and-you-miss-it appearance in a 1994 cult favorite to an internationally recognized filmmaker behind the camera. The old lady had only a brief appearance in Léon, The Professional, but Jessie Kiojan carried something few others in the cast could match, a lifetime of experience behind that unforgettable face. Born on October 15, 1905, Kiojan was 88 years old when the film was released in 1994, making her one of the oldest members of the cast. Her small role added another touch of authenticity to the gritty New York world surrounding Léon and Matilda, proving how even the quietest background characters helped give the movie its distinctive atmosphere. Kiojan also appeared in films such as It Could Happen to You, but her acting career came remarkably late in life, making her Hollywood journey especially unusual. Sadly, she died on October 26, 1994, only 11 days after celebrating her 89th birthday and shortly before Léon reached American theaters. Her screen time may have lasted only moments, yet more than 3 decades later, Jessie Kiojan remains part of a film that became a worldwide cult classic, a poignant final chapter in a life that spanned nearly 9 remarkable decades. The receptionist seemed like an ordinary face behind a hotel desk, until Matilda introduced Léon as her lover and left him staring in stunned disbelief. Born on August 15, 1929, George Martin was 65 years old when Léon, The Professional, arrived in 1994. His appearance was brief, but the awkward encounter provided a rare flash of dark comedy inside an otherwise violent story. Long before stepping into Léon and Matilda's strange world, Martin had built an accomplished career across stage, film, and television. He earned a Tony Award nomination for his performance in the Broadway production of Plenty and later appeared in acclaimed movies including Dead Poets Society and Awakenings. His screen work continued after Léon with Drunks, One Fine Day, and several Law and Order appearances. Martin died on June 1, 2010, at the age of 80. He never needed much screen time to feel authentic, and in Léon, one wonderfully uncomfortable reaction made his receptionist surprisingly hard to forget. Léon's taxi driver was only a passing figure in the story, but Stuart Rudin already had one unforgettable movie appearance behind him. Born on December 16, 1941, Rudin was 52 years old when Léon, The Professional, was released in 1994. Just 3 years earlier, audiences had seen him as Miggs, the deeply disturbing prisoner encountered by Clarice Starling in the Oscar-winning thriller The Silence of the Lambs. That startling role made Rudin instantly recognizable despite his limited screen time. His appearance as Léon's cab driver was far quieter, adding another authentic New York face to Luc Besson's gritty urban world. Rudin continued building an unusual collection of character roles, later appearing in Little Nicky, Sex and the City, Stakeland, and The Cobbler. Today, 84, he remains a fascinating example of the working character actor, rarely the star, often on screen for only minutes, yet capable of leaving audiences with an image they remember for decades. The first policeman appeared only briefly in Léon, The Professional, but Kent Broadhurst brought decades of stage and screen experience to even the smallest role. Born on February 4, 1940, Broadhurst was 54 years old when the film was released in 1994. By then, he had already built an impressive resume with appearances in Brubaker, The Verdict, Silkwood, and the cult favorite Silver Bullet, where horror fans may remember him as Herb Kincaid. Away from the camera, Broadhurst was equally accomplished as a playwright and screenwriter, with several of his plays produced at the prestigious Humana Festival. He later wrote the television film Wild Iris and continued appearing in series including Babylon 5, Law and Order, and Person of Interest. Sadly, Broadhurst passed away on May 20, 2026, at the age of 86. His moment in Léon was small, but his remarkable career was anything but a lifetime of storytelling that stretched from the theater stage to some unforgettable corners of American film and television. The Second Policeman was another fleeting presence in Léon, yet Tommy Hollis had already appeared in several movies audiences would instantly recognize. Born on March 22, 1954, Hollis was 40 years old when Léon, the professional, reached theaters in 1994. A decade earlier, he appeared as the mayor's aide in the original Ghostbusters, but one of his most significant screen roles came in Spike Lee's Malcolm X, where he portrayed Earl Little, Malcolm X's father. Hollis was also an accomplished stage performer, appearing as Booker T. Washington in the original Broadway production of Ragtime and performing in acclaimed works including Seven Guitars. His later screen credits included The Piano Lesson, Primary Colors, New York Undercover, and Law and Order. Tragically, Hollis died on September 9, 2001, from complications related to diabetes. He was only 47. His career ended far too soon, but behind that unnamed policeman in Léon was a gifted performer whose work stretched from Hollywood movies to the Broadway stage. The SWAT chief enters when the final confrontation has turned Léon's apartment building into a war zone, and Jeffrey Bateman brought exactly the authority the escalating siege demanded. Born in 1948 in Buckinghamshire, England, Bateman was about 46 years old when Léon, the professional, arrived in 1994. His role was relatively small, but he became part of the film's explosive climax as heavily armed officers close in on Jean Reno's seemingly unstoppable assassin. Bateman had already spent years working across British and European productions, and his career continued long after Léon. He appeared in My Son the Fanatic, Vattel, Manderley, and the French romantic comedy Heartbreaker, while television audiences later saw him as Bossuet in the lavish historical drama Versailles. He has also built an extensive career in voice work. Now in his late 70s, Bateman remains one of the film's veteran supporting performers, a familiar face from the unforgettable siege that brought Léon's story toward its heartbreaking end. Matilda walked down a hallway carrying groceries and made one desperate decision that changed both her life and movie history. Born on June 9, 1981, Natalie Portman was only 13 years old when Léon, the professional, was released in 1994, and astonishingly, Matilda was her first feature film role. Her emotionally raw performance immediately revealed a talent far beyond her years, launching one of the most remarkable careers of her generation. Portman went on to become Padmé Amidala in the Star Wars prequels, earned her first Oscar nomination for Closer, and transformed herself for Black Swan, winning the Academy Award for Best Actress. Another Best Actress nomination followed for her portrayal of Jacqueline Kennedy in Jackie, while major films such as V for Vendetta and the Thor franchise expanded her global audience. Now 45, Portman is an Oscar-winning actress, producer, and director, but more than 3 decades later, it's still extraordinary to watch Matilda and realize that a future Hollywood star was appearing on the big screen for the very first time. Thank you for joining us as we revisited the unforgettable cast of Léon, the professional. Which actor or performance stayed with you the most? Share your thoughts below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us for more timeless Hollywood stories.